Hello and welcome everybody, I'm One Proper Variant and this is diary number 82. Here we have the court type content. I am very excited for this one, rather because we are looking of course at a situation where if you think about the court types, that is this stuff right here. So it is diplomatic, warlike, administrative, intrigant. I don't know whether that is the term, but you know what I mean, right? So basically these are the different types that you can pick, and then you are in a situation where you actually get different events. I really enjoy that. I really like that. Now when I say different events, I want to make that clear. It is also stated in this dev diary, which is why I'm saying it in the first place. This does not mean that some events don't pop up at all. It just means that it is weighted differently and that there's a different chance when it comes to which events you may be getting here. Now let's take a closer look. This one is published by Troy, the community manager, and is written by an anonymous dev. Hey, hey, keep at it. Thank you for writing these. Of course, it's always a pleasure. Court type events. We talked about the court type system last week, right here, diplomatic, warlike, and so on. And continuing on that, this week we'll showcase the different types of content that you might experience depending on your chosen court type. Let's get into this. First of all, what do we have here? I really like this wall. Kind of just, and we talked about this a bunch by now, but like I really enjoy the many different patterns that we actually have, because this I'm pretty sure is one of the codes that we've seen in the past, but with a very, very different pattern, both on the wall and on the floor, and that actually changes the impression of it significantly. Now, this appears to be the player character. I'm saying this because I believe that the player character always sits on the left side from the onlooker, so from our perspective, meaning that this is her husband, or at least her primary husband, who knows. A peasant steps forward carrying a petition. My liege, I come to you as a representative of the Sinhalas from the Dama of Trincomalee. The peasant briefly poses a rehearsed speech. Our plea to see an important monument of our culture restored was ignored by the Damapati, I assume maybe the Count. He is actively hindering us from rebuilding, and then this is probably the actual Count. My liege, allow me to explain, Dana interjects in a panic. This monument makes a mockery of our culture. It depicts Tamils as monsters. Surely you can see why I would oppose the restoration of such a hateful monument. Right, okay, so basically saying we conquered your territory, your Sinhala territory, and you may not have anything that goes against us, the Tamil people. Give your formal approval for the restoration. Let's just see this right here. Build a different monument instead, one symbolizing compassion. I like that. And refuse the request from the Sinhalas. I'm a big fan. This one is related to you being diplomatic or administrative. Then you will get this more often. Then we have the cadastre. I believe it's a French word, right? My lady, my steward Samantha Yayakeshi speaks up. I propose a cadastral survey of all the counties you own. Improved knowledge and mapping of your land will certainly increase its prosperity, so this likely leads to a prosperity increase. No one knows your lands and woods better than me. Let me help. Intervenes my cousin Samantha Kulotunka. So basically, the steward here, Samantha and Samantha, are gonna get together. Yeah, Kulotunka help out. Oh, I assume Samantha is actually the family name, right? So we're all the same family. Look at that. So Kolotunka and Yajakeshi get together and then survey the lands. Maps are overrated or help out. Okay, so this one would be an administrative court. Makes sense, of course. Actually taking stock of your lands is a very administrative thing to do. If your court is known as a place of learning, then you can expect events concerning scholarly matters to be more common. If it is a place famed for its administrative nature, then events related to that will be more frequent. These court event weighings don't eliminate events from the pool, as I mentioned. They just alter their weights. It's not just petition events that are affected either, but the court events too. So court events are when you're not holding court. They just pop up in your court and you can give an answer. Just to remind you of this. Second-hand glamour. Finest raiments in the land, Halima. Mostly because they ain't from this land. Chortles Abianus as I walk past his open chamber. His voice oozes charm, but even so, my other courtiers seem unsure of the pitch. Almost new. Just as good as new and fresh from the trendsetters in Despot Abul Gharib's court. These are what everyone in the Despotate of Syria will be wearing next season. Ah, so he's trying to sell us things. Now this one is a really interesting one, because they don't say something that is crucial, but it would be so cool if that was the case. Let's take a look at this. My, those do look enticing, so we would basically accept that fashion, probably give him some money, and then, wear stuff from Syria. We don't need foreign nonsense in my court. Where are we here? This looks like the Abbasids. Are we like in Mesopotamia? Where are we, I wonder? Or who cares what people wear? So the thing about this is, and again, they do not mention this, but if this actually let my courtiers be dressed in not my culture's clothing, I would love it, right? Obviously, yeah, this is an event. Surely if you adopt other clothing, for example, you may gain grandeur, that sort of stuff. But I gotta tell you, if this actually made it so that I can be dressed like the Franks while I live in Iberia, or vice versa, I would be a huge fan, even if it is only for a certain amount of time, you know, until, I don't know, let's say 5 years have passed, then it is out of season. I would love that. Again, not said here, but I love this event if it has that impact. It would be so, so good. Surely, if it wouldn't be in the vanilla game, then I would assume that modders can probably put it in. This one would be in a diplomatic court, or at least more common there, because of, oh my god, just imagine. So I really wish we would see the modifiers here. This is a diplomatic court. Just imagine you adopt their clothings, then not only does the guy, the king of Syria, like you more, but also at the same time what we get is that his entire culture likes us more. His entire culture says, you know what, cultural acceptance goes up. I would love that. That is one of those things that I would actually like to see. We don't know whether that is in, but man, I like that these events are being considered because they can actually give you a bit of a different feeling, and that is important. CK3, I think one of the many, or rather one of the complaints that I hear a lot is the topic of repetition, the topic of there needs to be more to this, I already know all of these events. This is the stuff that changes things up, because depending on your core type, you will see certain things more, certain things less, and have a different experience, a different relationship to other cultures, and so on and so forth. And if you think that the events are limited to the courtroom alone, nay, we've added core type weighted events outside of court as well, so this one can just trigger, basically. Nothing is sacred, nowhere is safe. When minds collide. As I pass the library, the rumbles of Sheikh Usama's discontent pique my interest. He is debating Jojo, a visiting Akan scholar of some repute. Your foreign tongue lacks the nuances to discuss these ideas, Usama says scornfully. This is of course why you learned Arabic. The middle-aged man rolls his eyes and disdainfully mutters some oaths under his breath. Jojo has here, I can't believe they made a reference to the famous cartoon, Jojo's Extravagant Stories. Would you stay a while longer, Jojo? You're wrong, here's why. Or I think it is time you left, scholar. Okay, so interesting. This is, I believe, religious, right? Yeah, this is a scholarly court. You can basically meet different influences. I would actually, oh my god, I would actually love it if this would let me learn a language, if this would let me change religion, because this is about Akan, right? Akan is a religion, about the Akan faith. I would love that if that actually was a thing. I can keep him there, for example, and that sort of thing. Yeah, no, what I want from these events, basically, is what I'm saying, and we don't know whether they do this. But I do want them to be impactful. I want my character to have meaningful decisions that go beyond, oh, you know, you get some money, you get some prestige, you get some piety. I would love that primarily because that really would make the difference in every playthrough, right? Whether this would be cultural acceptance, maybe I could get a cheaper price on some of the traditions of this other culture if I were to dress like them, right? I would like that. I would really, really enjoy that. Let me know what you think. We don't know anything about the consequences here, but I really, really hope that there's something that, like, goes really far. You know, that would be incredibly neat. Now, the next one I'm not so sure about. Likewise, some new content is based off of your grander level and even your amenities. For instance, if your lodgings are low enough that you're struggling to house everyone, that does give a rather convenient excuse to evict guests and other scroungers from a cramped castle. So, I like the idea of my grander level and my amenity level, or my amenities level, because there are 4 different amenities, of course, influencing what decisions I have. This is a decision. But this decision itself, I'm like, I don't really know when would I ever do this? Order mass eviction. It's no secret that we lack spare rooms here at court in Tarnovgrad, nor that we have more than a few scrounging guests taking advantage of our hospitality. Typically, it would be rude to demand such layabouts move on, but if I were to claim that we simply cannot house them, every guest leaves your court. Due to your severe lack of lodgings, you may also opt to evict unimportant courtiers. So, obviously, in my opinion at least, you don't care about your guests at all because they're going to be moving on anyway. I have never, unless they had like an important claim and I could use them, that is cool, but I've never asked myself, can I get rid of this guest? Never, right? So, now you can ask unimportant courtiers to leave, but I'll be honest with you, if you do that, I applaud you because you are deep into role-playing. Like, deep into role-playing. Asking unimportant courtiers to leave, they are kind of unimportant for a reason. Like, do you really care for them? Do you really care enough about them that they should leave? Yeah, that's where I'm coming from. I feel like this is an interesting idea. However, I am not certain whether I will ever press this button. If there was more gameplay related to guests, I could understand it. But as of right now, I'm like, damn, I don't know. I actually see no purpose. Out with the old. This is the order mass eviction decision right here. Malingerous, sluggards, do-nothings. My court is beset with parasites like aphids in a garden, quartered in every available room. I love the way this is written. Snoring day and night and leaving their chamber pots strewn through the cramped halls. This cannot stand. We simply don't have room for all these wandering strangers. Town of Guard is not an inn. Be gone, leeches. So this is Bulgaria. I suppose we could put some beds in the stables. Yeah, no, I like this idea, but I look at this and I'm like, when do I ever want to get rid of guests? Like, I might roleplay this as like a paranoid, you know, a ruler. I might roleplay this as a ruler that really wants to get rid of a family member they don't like, I guess, but like, there's no actual gameplay benefit that is big enough or sizable enough for me to care about this, really. At least that is my feeling. Now, this one is very similar in my mind to the clothing one. Let's take a look. On the inverse side of things, having so many rooms that you don't know what to do with them gives a bit of a space for experimentation. Exoticize a grand hall. My court is filled with room after room after room, enough that even some of our more impressive halls go unused through much of the year. With this much architecture to style and decorate, surely we can afford to splash out on something modeled in a radically different style. You ponder other kingdoms and empires. So, this clearly does not speak of the grand hall, which is our throne room. But I gotta be real with you, when I read this, and when I'm now looking at this, I wish it did. I actually left a comment, we're gonna see that in a second, and I wonder whether they answered it. If they didn't answer before I finish the video, I'm just gonna, you know, keep track of it in this thread and then pin it in the comments, because I'm really curious about this. I would really like a decision in which I can adopt elements of, for example, the Byzantine court, the Fatimid court, the Holy Roman Empire, as, for example, Sicily. I can adopt something, the wallpaper changes, the floor changes, maybe the windows, you know, something like on their pattern changes, that sort of stuff. I would love that. I really, really would. If I could have a mix of these throne rooms, you know, basically have Mediterranean, wallpapers instead of what I would usually be using. I would love that. I really, really would. Currently, it looks like it doesn't actually have any visual impact, and that is, I wish it did. Redecorating in the style of a glamorous court is a bit on the nose, but not a bad way to crank up your own court's grandeur. Grandiose decor. Several likely redecorating candidates present themselves. Those nearest and most noteworthy to me, the realms of King Charles, King Garzia, and Sultan Yahya. So this is the Aghlabids, I believe. This is Navarra, and then this would be France. Who are we here? We are the Umayyads. Are we the Umayyads, the Fatimids? I don't know who we are. I want to say the Umayyads. Anyway, just because of the location, the way it picked it, right? Selecting a style that's considered more renowned than my own court would be personally humbling, but lend me some of the foreign realm's air of grandeur. Conversely, emulating a lesser realm should show magnanimity. Listen, okay? And build my legend abroad at the cost of some reputation at home. So, adopting something here. This just gives us 1 grandeur, but it does give us 30 opinion. That is pretty nice. I spent some prestige, that's fine. Navarrese architecture enthralling. Oh, Maghreb. It's the Maghreb. It's, we are the Umayyads. Right, yeah. So this is actually the Idrisids. Yahya Idrisid. A rough Maghreb feast hall would be a novelty. The West Francian court is quite grand. Yeah, no, I would love it if I could actually be a mishmash of a Catholic court and a Muslim court. I would love it. I don't think this actually leaves a visual impact, though. Because you know how I am with these. If something does something, usually they say so, right? Usually, you don't have a feature and then don't talk about it, right? You usually talk about it. So, right now, this seems like it's primarily an opinion and a grander situation. Right here we have, if you would show something that is worse than yours, so this is the Idrisid Sultanate, you lose 6 court grandeur because they're lower, but you get prestige, they get opinion, and yeah, okay, fair enough. For the rustic look, you could redecorate after a less than fashionable court. So there's a benefit here, you get some prestige and whatnot, but just imagine if that actually did something. Maybe it does, maybe they just didn't say it. And to round off, rulers whose court lacks grandeur that are willing to hold their nose a little can even burn some of their remaining dignity in exchange for skilled staff, rounding out their courts with experience even without pedigree. Let's take a look at this. Scraping the barrel. We have a blind man standing next to who I assume is us. Maybe. My sweep through Laksavamanavati has dragged Uditanarayan to see me. The man appears to have seen more than his fair share of conflict and cruelty in this world. He is blind. Wait, then maybe he wasn't always blind. And where's the reminders of every fist and blade which bashed and cut him down? Despite his affliction, it has been brought to my attention that he is a skilled merchant with an understanding of finance and organization, well above what I would expect of a lowly peasant. Undoubtedly, this man is wasted as a lowborn and has been chosen by Siddhartha to elevate to the rank of nobility and serve me at court. Of course, welcome to nobility. Right, so this would appoint him as my royal architect, and I lose grandeur, but if he has a great affinity towards it, then that could actually be worth it. Only the trait of execution befits this creature. Wow, that is a very... I like this choice. This decision is really neat. This decision is really, really neat. Having a code architect can have its own unique events. Getting this guy to be code architect actually has a bit of a dynamic because people will dislike you. You know, because the more grander you lose, the more people will dislike you. I like this event a lot. Siddhartha, fetch me someone else, or ooh, we're not that desperate yet. Alright, okay, fair enough. Now I will reload this page and see whether there is a developer response. There is not. So just to read this through. Hey folks, thanks for the DD. Will the exoticize, so this is me, grand whole decision actually lead to any visual code changes? I would really love it if that were to be the case, but as the DD doesn't hint towards that, I was wondering about it. Right, and then, yeah, nothing new, that's fine. Alright, yeah, basically, I like these events. I hope that there, of course, are plenty of them. I also hope that they are impactful, that they actually are something that goes beyond just pure number juggling, right? I want something that can make me convert, something that makes adopting a different tradition from a different culture cheaper, that sort of stuff. Something that changes me visually, that changes my courtiers visually, something that changes my court visually. I would love that. What do you think about this? And I think that's it for today's dev diary. Again, I will be pinning the actual dev response if we get one. I will be pinning that under the video once we get one. And I'll see you later, alligator.